I'm guessing if you are watching this, you already have an area where maybe you feel a little misaligned. Maybe you know exactly what it is. But if you don't, and you're just thinking something is off in my life, I want to help you clarify where that pivot may be, and then also how to know what to pivot to. So I think one of the first telltale signs is your body will let you know. You may feel more anxiety than usual. You may not be sleeping. I know at one point I have mentioned that when I was doing sales calls in a way that felt really unnatural for me, I started to get a rash before them. So that was a really telltale sign that something was a little off. You may just feel this unease when you're out with a certain group of people or person. Your body may be telling you signs in your health. Maybe your heart is flickering at the wrong times or things like that. So our bodies carry so much wisdom and they can't verbalize it to us with words, but they're always talking to us. And they're often the first ones to know when something is off. There's statistics that show that your gut actually sends 80 to 90% of the signals up to your brain instead of the other way around. So I know often we think of our brain as like the master orchestrator between all these things and it's sending the signals down to the gut. But actually what's really happening is the reverse. Your gut is sending more signals to your brain than the other way around. It's just in a different language. And so if you're starting to feel something is off, that could be your first sign that it's time for a pivot. It's just time for a little shift. For me, I remember once right out of college, I signed up for this program and I knew before I signed up it was not right for me. I just had a gut feeling, but I didn't know what else to do because I was graduating into a recession. There weren't a lot of job opportunities. And so I thought, well, at least this is a good one. At least this sounds good. At least this makes me feel good that I have something to go do. And I remember that I would just be at the most inopportune times, like standing in a coffee shop starting to cry, or on a plane just starting to cry and just knowing this was not right for me. And so for me, that was one of my first kind of signs, if I had just listened, that I should have pivoted to something else. And I've had other things too, like I mentioned with the sales calls, feeling just so anxious, so like something was off, not sleeping, getting those little rash before I would do these calls. At the time, I was following this script that was a much more like high pressure type of sales call where you tried to get a decision on the spot, and I was new to business, so it's what I was being told was the way to do sales, and I didn't know. All I knew was it didn't feel right to me. And so what I learned in that pivot is like, actually, you can always be open to additional ways of doing things that feel like a better fit for you. And once I opened and once it became like, oh, I can actually do sales just talking to people like I enjoy and connecting heart to heart and like one human to another, of course my business started working better. Of course I started feeling better. Of course the rash went away and all that stuff. I share these examples because sometimes when you're in the middle of things, you don't know what to pivot to, but you're getting signals all the time that you need to. Oprah has famously said that if you don't listen to the whispers become like a bang on the door. You don't listen to the knock on the door, it becomes like a brick upside the head. You don't listen to the brick on the head, the whole wall comes falling down. So I invite you to think about what are the whispers you're getting and what part of your life are you getting them? And how can you release knowing what's next or what will come in and what will fill those spaces and what will be a better fit for you. But trust that there is something out there for you and trust that this pivot is for a reason and there is another better solution. Sometimes we just can't see it and we can't grab hold of it until we open our hands and release whatever's in them so that it can fill that space instead.